Larry, for allowing me to be part of this group and on the board. It's true what Neil preaches is that there's a lot of opportunity in the organization. And we see that by not just about, well, here's your next client. It's about an introduction of like-minded people that might lead you to your next opportunity. And I think that's really what we're thinking about here. So I'm going to go through a bunch of conversations with you. I want to get you thinking a little bit. We're welcome to use the chat, stay interactive. Hey, if your camera's on, great. We love working face-to-face. Again, it's a big part of this virtual world we're in right now, is for us to be able to stay on camera. So for those that aren't on camera and are up to it, we'd love to see your face. So here's what I put together for you guys today. And it's really part of what is officially mastery in sales. Client development for the professionals in the group, rainmaking, whichever way you call it, it's about new business development. And that's what I'm going to be talking about today. The word referrals also, I want to take a look at that for a second. The word referrals is one that is at times misunderstood. So let's add the word introductions and let's add the word endorsements. Does that make some sense? In other words, that when we endorse somebody, we are sort of giving some testimony to their credibility as a professional, no matter what it is that your service that you're selling or one that you are providing a product.
Hey, Rob, excuse me. Do you want to share your screen so that we can blow it up here a little bit?
Can you not see my screen?
No, we could see your screen. All
right. So if you put it into presenter mode, Neil, then you can see just my presentation.
You got it.
Right? All right. So you probably have a selection where you can do gallery. You see view on the upper right hand part of your.
Most people. Yeah.
All right. Click on view, presenter view, and you'll see the screen. I use a different kind of deck that allows me to not have to share the screen. It's done automatically.
Okay. Perfect.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. So let's talk about the path of mastery. In anything that we do, let's set the baseline here. Being aware is what I call the first step in getting improvement. So today we're going to talk about, hey, your current process of getting introductions. What I want you to do is in the chat right now, taking a look at the way that you get new clients. In the chat, put in what you believe by percentage of what percentage of your new business comes in through referrals. Go ahead. Just put in a rough percentage. I'm not going to hold you to it. Currently, what percentage of your business comes in through referrals? Who says all of it? Larry, 95, 75, 60. Look at these numbers. 70%, 90%. So here's a great opportunity for us to look at through this sense of awareness about areas that I could potentially take my referrals process to a whole other level. So it may mean that our conversations today might be, hey, what are some things that I'm looking to improve upon? And by the way, if we think about mastery in anything that we do, we have to go through these 4 stages. So a number of you may be highly successful. You've got a string of new clients coming in because you have a well-oiled referrals and introductions machine. That's great. So maybe you're welcome to share some best practices as well. Again, I don't claim to be the smartest guy in the room. So let's talk about the secrets here. Let's get into what it really looks like. All right, so I'm going to get into some content. What I'd like you to do right now is we're going to talk about our baseline, where things are currently now when it comes to your referral strategy. So the question I throw out to everybody here is how you finish the sentence. That I can be more effective in my referrals process if only I could. And I would invite you to put into the chat when you look at your own process. Again, if we're growth oriented, we're looking for the next level in business development is, hey, what are some things that I need to work through that I could be better at it? And I'll give you a whole list of things that I'm seeing from people I speak to. Okay, so I could be better if. So go ahead, let's take a minute and I'll give you some good old Jeopardy music.
Rob, I heard you were going to be the next host of Jeopardy.
I'm too old. Larry, I love what you wrote. Okay, so here's what I've got so far. Continue to write as you go. Again, growth oriented is, hey, I'm seeking the next level. These are some of the things I would like to improve upon. Here's an analogy. We know Tiger Woods, there's a shot that he practices for that once in a season time that ball gets covered in the bunker and sand. And he practices that one shot. Because the guy's got such a great game that he practices that one shot to bring his game to an entirely different level. Rafael Nadal works on his backhand, two-handed backhand. So these are areas where we look to improve upon. So what I'm hearing is, hey, if I could ask satisfied clients for introductions to their network, yes. We'll talk about client referrals as a big, big area and untapped potential. If I can remember their names, Larry, yeah, there's books written on that topic, by the way. Yeah, I read one article where if you repeat their name 3 times or see their name, or if you meet Harry and they're Harry, that kind of thing, it leads to that mnemonic device we use. Asking clients for more introductions, focus on the quality of introductions, need to follow up constantly. Anybody else? What are some things that you see are some of the gaps? In other words, where things are where you'd like them to be. Anybody else got anything?
Maybe more hours in the day.
Yeah, I probably can't help you with that one.
I know.
Yeah. So, and by the way, we talk about 2 buckets here. Bucket A can be things I have control over, and bucket B, I have no control over that. Right. So I want to focus on that bucket A stuff, to your point. All right. So we got a list of ones. I want to share with you the ones that I see very often, and I'll read them off. One might be saying, hey, I'm doing a lot of asking. I'm just not getting responses. But how many of us have said, hey, if I think of somebody, I'll let you know? Does that ever happen to anybody? Yeah, great. I'm glad you brought it up. If I think of somebody, I'll let you know. And what is that basically saying? Not much. Because again, do they leave the meeting and they actually think about it? Well, some might, but a lot may not. How about, okay, not having the time to ask. In this crazy, busy world that we're in, we sometimes forget. How many of us have clients that love us? Love us. I mean, they are the top. Like if you got a list of 6 to 10 clients that absolutely worship you and love you, where's the opportunity in the ask over there? Here's another one that I see very often. I call this the ICP, the lack of specifics in a target, which means with intention, do people communicate exactly who they're looking to meet? Neil, I'm putting you on the spot right now. Tell us in your world, who is an ideal profile for you? Who's an ideal target, whether referral source or client?
My ideal target is an experienced insurance agent who wants to go up another level, and I can help with getting good quality product and cases to them. And that's my quality person.
So as you can see in the case with Neil, he has with intention very, very specific areas. A number of people, you guys don't do it, but a lot of times I hear, we're full service, we're a full service brokerage, we're a full service agency. And it's sort of like that generalist versus that specialist mindset. And in this case, I say in order to help open that mental file cabinet, we want to try to get more specific if we can. Let's go back over here. So messaging needs a little bit of work. In other words, this is our own presentation of who we are and what we do. And look, we're all professionals. We're doing this a long time, but here's another one of those moments where we can sort of compare and say, hey, is there opportunity for me to get better at how I deliver my message? What are the 3 or 4 pain points, if you will, that people experience or companies experience as to where they might need a conversation with me with intention? And that's all about a tool of a 30-second commercial. LinkedIn is another big one. What are appearances on LinkedIn? I'll touch on this briefly today about how you look, how people approach you. Are you appealing to your audience? Are you appealing to referral sources to you if you're dealing with the general public? Right. In the case of Larry, Larry Bloom deals directly with the public as well as Larry Scherer. So, one is an accountant, one's an attorney. So that's going to come a lot from referral sources, like pretty much anybody in this group. Right. So that's an area where the LinkedIn profile has to be aimed towards them. Another one is that networking or not working, I call that. In other words, what's the true spirit of networking? All right. And if you want to take some notes today, here's my definition of networking. Networking is creating long-lasting relationships for mutual gain, right? Creating long-lasting relationships for mutual gain. Not a serial networker who goes meeting, right? Different group, but they never create those long-lasting, valuable relationships. I've seen Himmelstein and Scherer, for example, back and forth, because they have such a depth and high level of trust, which I'll talk about in a minute. And that's kind of what we look at, right? And I think even, just a shout out to the group is really all about that. How do we create these long lasting relationships and not a fly by night approach? Some don't have a real goal when it comes to referrals. Some are not comfortable in the ask. If you think about it, some people are just not comfortable asking a client, right? Because there may be some fear, right? That they may be, taken aback by the fact that you're asking them of something, right? So again, that might be something we can relate to as well. Can anybody relate to these things that I'm pointing out? This is in the work I've been doing. This is what I hear. Okay, so let's get busy. Let me help you in this case now. If you identify a gap for yourself, is to plot it on what we call the success triangle. Because any business development success is predicated on these 3 points right here: attitude, behavior, and technique. All right, I'm going to go on all of them and think about your own referrals process and introductions and endorsements about, well, hey, what kind of a job am I doing here? How effective am I at asking, right? Do I have myself in the right mindset and conviction and belief in myself and my company to be able to put my foot forward, right? Do I have the belief that I deserve more and that I'm entitled to it? Yes. Behavior. How often do I do it? And then finally, what is the actual technique itself in asking for business opportunities from other folks? But here's one thing I want to point out. They're on two sides of the coin. One side is around technical. Technical is how to do it. How do I have the conversation? How do I ask a client for an introduction to other people? What am I saying, right? The other side is conceptual. And that's all about something that resides between our ears. I'm happy to say that most human brains processes 60,000 thoughts a day. The challenge with that is the self-talk or self-limiting belief or non-supportive beliefs constitute about 70 to 80% of those 60,000 thoughts. So how do I work on the conceptual part to put me in the right headspace to do that? So let's go a little bit deeper into that. Let's talk about the attitude, right? This is now my mindset about the whole process of endorsements and engagement. But here's the cool part. I'm going back to the beach for a second with my friend Jack. Jack and I were having a casual conversation. I said, hey, you know any golf pros? Right? I mean, I suck at golf, right? But I want to get better. I want to take lessons. He's like, I got a guy. Hey, and we're smoking some beautiful Cuban Monte Cristos. For anybody that smokes cigars, I'm an occasional cigar smoker. He hands me a Cuban Monte Cristo. Where'd you get it? I can hook you up. I got a guy. He just delivered a box yesterday. All right. Then on the last part is my daughter-in-law's, we're traveling to Portugal in 3 weeks, right? He's like, oh, my neighbor upstairs, he's an expediter for passports, right? Like what? And it's all about that magical connection because he has an abundance mindset. Like he's eager to connect people. So this morning I connected him with a client of mine, right? And it's just as simple as that. And are we constantly being top of mind about the potential or, that proactive referral part? So do we possess those self-limiting beliefs? But here's another one I want to point out here. Do we possess a scarcity versus abundance mindset? In other words, how many of us this week are making a plan to give 3 to 5 introductions to other people? No agenda. Neil is, I know it. 3 to 5 introductions to other people. Strange things happen out there in the universe when we start to think that way. The abundance mindset is, hey, look, Neil, I'm not handing you next client, but I'm going to introduce you to somebody I believe may bring value to you or to them by connecting you. And that's the magic right here. All right. So I call it the climber, camper, or parking lot. And this is how we see ourselves. The climbers are those that are engaged in the session I'm doing this morning, writing down the areas where they want to improve, they want to get better. Those are climbers. They're going up the mountain. They're doing everything they can to get better at honing their craft about business development, especially around referrals. The campers, you know what, I've done okay. I got a good business. I'm happy. I don't really need to kill myself. And the parking lot are the folks that are just very negative and will have disbelief in everything that's being said. And I call that the parking lot. In other words, they don't get out of the car. Why bother? It's not going to work. I think Winnie the Pooh has a character, Eeyore, for example. Yeah, why bother? It's not going to work anyway. So the fear of rejection is another one. Broken records, that's the self-limiting beliefs thing we'll talk about. Those are the things we process mentally that sort of get in the way for us. They're probably not going to want to give me a referral. They're probably going to be embarrassed, right? It's all the trash that we possess. And we sort of, with intention, we believe that that's what they're going to think or say. And it limits us. And finally, here's a question for you, and this is a rhetorical question. In your mind, what makes you referable to others? What is it that you bring to the table that makes me want to introduce you to other people? Could it be the quality of your work? Could it be your reputation? Could it be the fact that you have helped people not just meet expectations, but surpass them? So all of this is on the attitude part. Let me move on. Here's the behavior part of the triangle, and here's some things you want to know. Do I have a goal? 3%, this is a staggering number. 3% of people walking the planet have written goals. That's it. 3%. And it astounds me when I meet CEOs that they have maybe the quotas and goals for sales, but what about other areas of their life? So are they plotting themselves some long-term, short-term, and daily goals? That's the LT, SD, and D. Do they have long-term goals? You know, what is their business going to look like? How are they going to get there? Even as far as referrals go, a number of you knew your numbers. Larry said 95%, Larry Bloom said 70%, Diego said 90% of your business comes from referrals. Everybody understand the theory of constraints here? The theory of constraints is that a chain is only as strong as its weakest link. So if I'm depending 90% of my business on introductions, then how do I get the weakest link of my introductions and referrals process even better? Does that make some sense? And then finally, do I possess the discipline, vitality, and guts to do what I need to do? Which means, am I not only asking, but am I giving at the same time? And that's behavioral change. Now let's talk about the technique. This is the fun stuff. Presence. Am I perceived in the marketplace as a go-giver? Neil, this is the last time I'm going to say something positive about you today, all right? Because I'm tapped out, all right? Neil Himmelstein is a go-giver. From the day I met this guy, he's like, what can I do to help you, right? And he truly meant it. I'm thinking, what a cool mindset. And my friend Jack on the beach, is how can I help you? What can I do for you is the go-giver mindset. You know, obviously possessing high integrity, we're all seen that way. We want to be seen that way, that we only deliver high integrity. I know there are bad people in our industries. They don't have good reputations. You know, we try to avoid them like the plague, but we want to hang with the people that have high integrity. Strategy. Here's another part of this. Emerson's law of compensation, like I just said before, give to get. Try it as a behavior this week. I would urge you to try this. Give out 3 to 5 introductions if you can. If you can, all right? Give to get process I'm talking about. And as far as a template goes, I'll walk you through a template that might be helpful to you in how you go about the technique of asking for introductions. Here's some tactics I want to share with you. Ideal client profile. Do you have an ideal client profile written out? And if not, I want you guys to ping me. I'm happy to send it to you. I'll walk you through ours. I'll help you create one for yourselves. And back to the point about being with intention about specifically who you want to talk to. I know a lot of you may be thinking, well, hey, I'm a generalist. I sell everybody. I do business with everybody. I would urge you to take pause and maybe look at it differently and look for maybe a more specific area. Let me give you an example there. I've done a lot of work with financial advisors over the years on a national basis as well as locally. And one of my clients is a divorced woman in her 40s, and she is a financial advisor. And she and I were talking about specific market. Well, you know, I can, work with anybody. I can work with couples. I can work with individuals. And we started to discuss her and her relationships that she has around her. And we decided to help her narrow down her area to women in transition. In other words, it wasn't just divorced women in transition. Women in transition also meant retiring female CEOs. And can I begin to tell you how her business changed? Because now she's getting introduced to CEOs that are leading companies with very, very fat 401ks. And there she is to help them through assets under management and financial planning. So, be more of a specialist if you can. And that's all about the tactics behind this. Your 30-second commercial, mastery of the ask, using some of the online tools and social selling. So here's a path. It can only go in this direction. In other words, as you build these relationships, will gain, folks, what has to happen is I've got to start somewhere. Some of you I haven't met before. We're meeting for the first time today, right? And you're probably saying, I wish this guy would just shut up. He talks too much, right? But that starts over here by knowing who this guy is. Now, getting a better sense of what you do is the next level up here. Now, could I give a referral to somebody else based on the fact that I'm just beginning to know you? Yeah, I probably could. But if I think about the effectiveness of the ask, we've got to spend a little bit more time to bloom where planted, is what I call it. Blooming where planted means we're putting the seeds into a relationship or creation now, which means that I am going to create what I call the FORD acronym. And that means I want to learn more about your family. I want to learn about your organization or your occupation on the O. I want to learn about what you like to do for fun. That's recreation. In other words, Neil's going to have this event with these guys on tomorrow night. It's not all going to be about business. Hey, when you're not working, what do you like to do? Talk about building relationships that way. And then finally, D is for dreams, goals, desires. Where long-term, where you believe, what are some long-term things you're looking to do? Great basis to begin the process. Here's another one that says, without saying, that we've got to like each other, because if I don't like you, it's probably going to be hard for me to refer you. Know somebody who has worked with you is the next level up here, and you start to see the word trust kick in here. Once I know somebody that has worked with you, now there's a whole different level to our relationship, because now there's endorsements that now follow that, which means that credibility is increased into the conversation. And then the highest level of trust are your clients. Highest level of trust. They love you. They will refer you. There's two different kinds of referrals. We've got passive referrals and active referrals. Passive is how many of us have gotten, by show of hands, have gotten introductions from clients that we did not expect. Anybody? Yeah. So that's called a passive referral. We don't really need to work for it. It happens naturally. And some of them lead to some significant business. I call them bluebirds. We don't really do anything proactive. They just kind of show up. But here's the other side to that. Active, right? And those are the ones where I have a strategy in place for me to work towards that. Here are the 4 levels: hot, warm, cool, and cold. Let me go through all of these and the probability of success. You can immediately get rid of these 2. Don't even waste your time on them. In other words, a cold referral is, here's a name, good luck. A cool introduction, a client may call ahead and say, hey, talk to Neil, he's a good guy. But these are the 2 I want to play in. The probability of success on a warm introduction or a hot introduction is the way to go. In other words, a warm introduction is a client may call and tells the prospect about the work you've done with them. All right. And that's an endorsement. Very, very much higher level of probability of success, or at least a conversation. Once you get an on the tee introduction, from there you can do your magic. The highest level here is a face-to-face introduction. With COVID, it has changed significantly. As we know, those breakfast meetings have taken a backseat to Zoom meetings and virtual meetings. So this is one of those moments also, if you're meeting people on Zoom, are you putting forth your best version of yourself when you're on Zoom? In other words, your background, the camera angle, all of that has to play a part of this. Do you have light behind you? So these are these hot introductions. We've got an 80% probability of success there. So again, I want to play in the top 2. The bottom 2 are just not going to really serve me time-wise. Let me pause. By the way, the sign of a really bad trainer is if they ask if anybody has questions. So does anybody have any questions? Okay, you want me to keep going? All right,
Move forward.
All right, I'm moving forward. Okay, you probably can't see this, but this is an ideal client profile. All right, again, if you ping me, I will send this to you, and I'm happy to chat with you about how to build it. But let me kind of walk you through what it says. On the left, you see we have a framing statement. You have a persona. Who are you targeting is really key here. All right. And again, it's going to force you to get out of the general public space and get much more intentional and specific. How would you describe their either personal or business model? All right. What are some of their typical issues? And this is the hot button right here. What are some of the typical issues and challenges they may face as to why they would want to talk to you? Here's another one. Referral sources. Do we mention who referral sources are? Let me just give you a second here. As you guys know, I'm an owner of a sales strategy and sales skills development office, meaning we work with teams all over the world and locally, helping them. We also work with sales leaders on strategy, putting systems and processes in place. We do outsource sales management. All that stuff is part of our business. So who are my ideal referral sources? CPAs, marketing firms, advertising agencies, management consultants, wealth management firms, business and executive coaches, venture capital firms, and private equity. Those are excellent referral sources for us. In other words, we're not selling them. We're looking to help them improve. So there's a partnership in there. Does that make some sense? So that's your ideal client profile. Here's another toolkit is your 30-second commercial. In other words, if I put you on the spot and said, hey, do your 30-second commercial, what would you say? And this is another one of those moments, again, if I'm growth oriented, is, hey, what am I saying when I talk to people? What is the messaging I'm saying? Am I creating any differentiation here? Right now, what makes you different and what makes you referable is one of those moments. I could spend the whole session on this 30-second commercial right unto itself, because this is one of the mission critical documents that we really truly need to deliver our message. It's succinct, it's to the point, and it evokes some sort of a reaction to people we speak to. All right, let's try an exercise now. I'm going to ask you guys to, I'm going to do an exercise to open your mental file cabinets right now. I'm going to ask you to take a blank piece of paper right now. And when you take your blank piece of paper, I want you to draw a big circle on that page and draw what you see on the page. All right, so outside of the circle, you put a little X and a line, and you're going to write the letters S, C, O, P, E. Now we're going to try an exercise now. And again, this is an exercise. It's a fictitious exercise, unless for some reason a name pops into your head. But I want to show you how easy it is to open a mental file cabinet. All right, what I want you to do on the outside right now is to write down, without telling us, write down the name of somebody famous you have met in your life. A famous person, whether it's a famous musician, famous actor, famous Broadway stage actor, famous athlete, basketball, baseball player, tennis player, politician, somebody you have met in your life who's famous. Okay? All right, now, let's go inside the circle now. And under the letter S, I'd like you to write down the name of somebody you know who is a sales leader. In other words, this could be a sales director, sales manager, somebody who runs a sales team that you may know in your circles. All right, just write down a name of somebody you think you may know. It's okay if you don't know a name. Next, write down the name of somebody you know who is a business consultant. It could be a management consultant. It could be a profitability consultant, an outsourced CFO, consultant to a business. Next, write down the name of somebody you know who is a business owner. Who owns a business? Next, notwithstanding anybody in the group here, write down the name of somebody you know who is a professional. What I mean by that is an attorney, a CPA, an engineer, chiropractor. Those are examples of professionals, okay? And then finally, I want you to write down the name of somebody that you know who is a real, true entrepreneur. In other words, they start up companies, they build them up, and they're just on fire. Entrepreneurs. Now, here's a question for you. Show of hands, who wrote down 5 names? Okay, so here's the question now for you. And again, this is an exercise. What I'd like you to do is to write down a number on the page of how many people on that piece of paper you wrote down you think would be engaged to have a 5-minute phone conversation with me. Just write a number. How many people on that list of shape you think might be open to a 5-minute conversation about their sales process? And what I ask you to do is in the chat, put that number down in the chat. How many people you think might be engaged to have a conversation? All right, so let me do some quick math here. 3, 5, 7, 11, 15, 20, 21, 22, 26. I'm looking at 26 potential introductions in a matter of 5 minutes. Now, what's the purpose here of this goal? Now, why did I ask you about the famous person? So Larry Bloom, you put down a famous person, who'd you put down?
put down two. I put down Willie Mays and Phil Collins.
Wow, Phil Collins. All right. Anybody else? Just come off mute and tell me who are your famous people.
Trump.
You met Donald Trump, okay?
Muhammad Ali, Wilt Chamberlain, Walt Frazier.
Wow.
Muhammad
Two
Ali
of them
too.
are dead, so I can't talk to them.
Okay, gotcha. Any other famous people?
John Leguizamo.
Okay. Who else?
This one's a little excuse me, a little embarrassing. Bill Cosby.
Bill Cosby. Okay. Hey,
Met him
now,
also.
So you know what's so why did I do the famous person? Why do you think I did that?
Somebody's gonna reach out to them.
Well, yeah, you know what it does? What it does is if you see the drawing here about open the mental file cabinet, I started to get your brains conditioned to think of people. I want to share with you the biggest mistake that people make when it comes to referrals. Like here's really the core of the apple right now. I believe that one of the biggest mistakes I see is that we put the monkey on the back of the people we're asking. I want you to let that sink in for a second. In other words, we're not being selective in helping them to connect the dots. This exercise today is designed to help you open up the dots, which led to 26 people that you guys collectively have come up as potential introductions from it, right? And again, I'm not asking for them unless you said, hey, Rob, listen, I think you really should talk to these people, but that's not the purpose of the talk. Now, you'll notice my acronym is the word scope. What's yours? If you think about a takeaway from today, is to create your own acronym. Make it easier for people that you trust, that trust you, to help them connect the dots for you. And the ability for you to boil this down into specific areas and specific personas that you want to talk to is what I'm getting at as far as a part of improving the referrals process. All right, I saw some light bulbs go off. All right, does that make some sense? Here's another tool I'm going to give you, and then I'm going to shut up soon. All right, this is called my Magnificent 7 tool. Let me blow this up. In the middle is you, surrounded by an organizational chart of your alliances and centers of influence that will provide introductions for you. That is the reason that we are at LIAFPN, because here is a Magnificent 7 group potential. It's your bench. It's people that would easily be able to bring you in, refer you into other people, and vice versa. We're looking for the ultimate relationship. So here's an exercise for you guys to go through too. Look at your current state of introductions and endorsements and who you generally turn to and who turns to you. And it's a time for you to fill the bench of 7 minimum referral sources, not people, types of practices or businesses, right? So Neil, on the spot again, who are some of your referral sources? Who generally might lead you to the promised land?
Quite candidly, it's most of the people in this room.
Exactly.
And that's kind of why Larry Shearer and I co-founded this organization, is we wanted an organization that will work around our referral sources that will, we're tired of going to BNI meetings and this and that, meeting random people. We want to introduce and be introduced to people that we invite in our little group, if that makes sense.
So there's depth that you're looking for. And you're right. This is an org chart, guys. This is an org chart. It is not meant to be person by person by person. It's meant to fill in. For example, I could call it the Magnificent 21. Let's say I'm looking for 3 CPAs that I'd like to work with. That's okay, right? And what happens very often is that if I have an opportunity to introduce a CPA, I might introduce 2 CPAs and let that person decide who they want to talk to. They can talk to both, right? So there's the benefit here. If I have this document that's laid out, I can start to fill my org chart of CPAs, management consultants, marketing consultants, advertising agencies. You know, in the real estate world, it could be the broker, the home appraiser, I mean, the banker, you know, all of that stuff.
Question on this?
Go ahead, Daniel.
Yeah. So, I mean, for this exercise, I see what the crux is, but when you're putting together your Magnificent 7, are you saying, you said not individuals, so organizations or industry? So I have CPAs around there. I have Sharon Prudell, Bloom Schoen. Who do I put as type and organization? How do I fill this one out?
Great question. So I mean, by profession, you could do it, Daniel, not just by, you know, a large organization. I want you to misunderstand. and my fault that I'm not explaining it. It's really just about the type of business that you're looking for as a referral source. And here's what I want you to do. The first is creating the org chart. Next, you now look at your current inventory of people that are in that occupy a seat on your bench, and give them a hard score. If we talk about top grading our connections and top grading, it's not about getting referrals from them. Listen, we'd like it to be, but at the end of the day, how well does the relationship work? Back and forth, that's what I'm looking at. And that gets a score of 10. If there's a back and forth and we find we trust each other highly, that's a high score. I'm not replacing that person on my bench. But if I got somebody that's occupying in a certain category and there isn't really a lot happening, I may look to top grade. That's what I'm really looking at here, right? It's meant for looking at filling the positions first, then deepening those relationships to a point where they really work. It's on all cylinders. So that's another document that's been very helpful.
Hey, Rob, can I bring this down to a simpler level?
Sure.
Coming in the financial field, I would say, look at your 10 best clients and then write down on a piece of paper what you like about them. What are the best qualities? That'll tell you who you like to work with and who likes to work with you. And then from those qualities, then you can derive your list or ask them to meet similar people that have those qualities, that are like-minded, they may be in a particular type of industry. They may all be into, professional wrestling. They may all be into surfing, but whatever that commonality is with your 10 best clients or your 5 best clients, they may all be successful entrepreneurs. That's where you start your list. That's where you start your tree, is from that growth of, 80% of everybody's business. I don't care if you're an accountant, a financial planner, 80% comes from 20% of the people. Always does. No matter how you look at it, it's 80-20.
Yep.
Focus on that 80%, that 20% of the people that give you 80% of the business. Find the commonalities and go from there. That's
I
my
think that's called the Pareto principle or something like that.
So while we're on the numbers, let me give you the 20-60-20 rule with referrals. 20% of people will never, I repeat, never refer you. That's just fact. They're just not going to refer you. It doesn't come with the wavelength. They may love your competitor. They're just never going to refer you. 20% of people love you and will always think of you. Where the magic happens is in the 60%, because those folks are waiting for you to ask. There is so much opportunity out there now. It's always been. Right? The question is, where do we focus? Are we frustrated because the bottom 26 aren't giving us any opportunities? Are we spending too much time at the top 20? Or are we looking to maximize that 60%? And that's an area of tremendous opportunity. I wanted to shift gears for a second. LinkedIn. I just want to spend a minute here because this is one of those checklist items here about your profile. What are you saying to the world? And how are you communicating and leveraging it? There is so much business being done on LinkedIn right now. And by the way, even if you deal with the direct general public, look at how much business comes through referrals. If you have a high number, and north of 60% of your referrals, this is a tremendous referral source. Now, here's what I can do. And again, you can do a gut check. And again, I can do a whole thing on LinkedIn, but I'm not going to do that today. But about what you're saying. What are you saying to the general public and your referral sources when they see your profile? What creates value for them when they see your profile? What are we saying? What's our messaging? So one of these moments, maybe it's a to-do list item, is to look at your profiles and say, hey, what am I saying out there? Is it attracting the right referral source for me or prospect client? So claim your name, professional business headshot, make your headline compelling. All right, mine says empowering sales leaders and their teams to increase revenue and profit to improve behaviors, mindsets, and effective systematic selling strategies. That's on mine. All right. In other words, and I've taken a lot of training to learn how to do this, and part of the stuff that I do here. Now, I want to show you something as far as how referrals work. Let's say, and I'm just going to pull up my cell phone and show you this. So I go on LinkedIn here, all right, and I'm on this guy. Let's see, Neil Himmelstein. Anybody heard of him? Yeah. Right. So let's say that I am working on Sales Navigator and I come across somebody that is connected to Neil Himmelstein. All right. Let's say I want to meet Larry Bloom. All right. So I noticed that he's connected through Neil Himmelstein. So I'm going to, because Neil and I are connected. And by the way, how many of you by a show of hands are connected, first degree connection to people you've never spoken to? Fess up. Yeah. Think of the
I
audience.
know.
Right? There's a list of people we've just never spoken to. So let's say that now I see that Neil, so instead of sending him an email, I decide, you know what? I'm going to send him a video. So I'm going to go like this. Hey, Neil, hope you're doing well. Hey, I was looking through your LinkedIn profile and actually doing some LinkedIn stuff. I noticed that you're connected to Larry Bloom. Not sure how well you know him. Hey, in any event, let's catch up. Click below my message for a calendar. Let's get on the calendar. It's been a long time. Talk to you soon. So I take this and I send it to Neil Himmelstein.
Wow.
All right. So now what's going to happen is Neil's phone is going to buzz. He's going to get a video message from somebody he knows pretty well, but we've just not been in touch with each other in a long time. But now top of mind stuff comes in. If he's thinking like my friend Jack, he's thinking, you know what? I was just thinking about you. It's so funny that you just contacted me. Hey, let's chat. There is an abundance of opportunity right there. Now, I'm going to ask him, hey, if you're not comfortable introducing me to Larry, leave it be. It's okay. I was wondering, the first question here is, well, how well do you know Larry? And Neil may say, Larry's one of my good buddies. What do you want to know? Hey, if I write the email, I will write the email. Would you be comfortable sending it? You know, we've got a book that we wrote, LinkedIn the Sandler Way, and that book talks about one of the chapters. 70%, that's a 70 there, of people will actually forward an email that you wrote, as opposed to you asking them to write it for you. Does that make some sense? So think about templating an email introduction. So that's one simple thing. I did a different way of just creating a quick video on LinkedIn, send it to Neil. I didn't have to write an email to him, but I will if he says, yeah, I know Larry pretty well. Happy to do it. So there is another way you can work your LinkedIn profile. This is just an example of what that we did in a technology space. I do a lot of work in technology. So this guy was at Spy Cloud. He's connected to this guy who's a former client of mine and a martial arts guy like me. So we connected on that. Haven't spoken in a while. So that's another way you can use this. So let's talk about the introductions themselves, and let's get away from the word referrals. All right, here's some philosophies I want to share with you, and then I'll begin to start to wrap this up today. Pendulum theory is all about going in the opposite direction. In other words, people love to buy yet hate to be sold. So when it comes to the idea of asking people for introductions, I'm going to let them know, hey, if you're not comfortable doing it, let's just leave it be. It's okay. I don't want you to feel uncomfortable doing that. And a lot of us may not do that when it comes to a client. I want to ensure that they are completely comfortable in doing this. And if they're not, it's okay. It's okay. That's the whole purpose of what I call selling away, not toward. When we sell towards somebody, it's pushy. It sounds aggressive. And if one of the techniques we could learn from today is about the approach, is to soften up the approach and allow them to look at it differently. Perhaps maybe that introduction might help them by being introduced to you, not for you to get another client. Does that make some sense? All right. So in other words, that's another way to look at this. Here's some suggestions for your raving fans. Build your list to what Neil said before. Neil, you probably saw my presentation before today. That's probably why you knew that.
No. Actually, I did. That's all good.
Build your list. Are they networked? Are they credible? Have they been served well and helped by you? Have they gotten results? All right. So these are just some questions to help trigger thought for you. Now become the matchmaker. This is what a number of us in the group do really, really well. Again, take yourself out of it. Be the go-giver. If you can introduce people to each other, that's the magic right there. It will find its way back to you, I can assure you. I was doing a session at my Sandler Training Center when we were in the classroom, and I had helped 2 clients get introductions. And we did a live class. We did what's called a real play versus a role play. A real play is if you do a good job, I'm going to give you a name of somebody I think you should talk to. And my phone rang in my office an hour later from a gentleman who said, I have a client I'd like you to help. And it was completely unrelated. So it's just weird. So become the matchmaker. Look at your LinkedIn profile. Look at the boards and charities. Who here is on a board of a charity or a board? There's magic there. And I have to tell you that I'm on the board of the Holocaust Museum. I'm a vice chairman. And I have met some pretty amazing people, highly successful business people that all serve a common purpose, is to combat anti-Semitism and intolerance, right? So we all share a common goal. So again, you think about that level of trust that's built there by your involvement. Look at the way that you're involved in charities and boards, and is there anything you can improve about that? Do your homework on your ICP, your ideal client profile. And professional, persistent prospecting is really all about those P's that I put on my list, and I'm racing towards the finish line. Value discussion. How do you create value? So if I'm asking Neil, and he's a client of mine, one question that comes up is, hey, Neil, how long are we working together? You could say, yeah, I don't know, Rob, about 5 years. Yeah, wow, that's time's gone by. So Neil, what would you say has been the single most important thing we've helped you with? All right, so what kind of value has been brought there? Now, unsolicited, you may have a client say to you, hey, Larry, I got to tell you, I really appreciate what you've done for us. All right, I appreciate you taking the steps, being professional and courteous to all my family members, really appreciate it. Well, there's a stage set for an introduction at that point. All right, so the value discussion has to be created. The brainstorming is a word that I use about, hey, would you be comfortable at some point, certainly you don't have to do it today, about potentially brainstorming about people that you may know that you think might welcome a call from me. And certainly it could be somebody that you know from the club, it could be a relative, somebody that lives in your neighborhood, right? In other words, I'm helping to open their mental file cabinet, which is the exercise we did today. Then I make the contact, and then I will show some gratitude. In other words, my friend Jack made those introductions. I gave him an introduction this morning, right? Just when somebody's a client of mine that I believe that they can help each other. So we know the words, don't keep me a secret. Who would meet me based on your recommendation is a great question. Who do you care about that might appreciate a phone call from me? In other words, this is all about the law of paying it forward. Now, I've done this to really help you in building your belief system around referrals. And a number of you are quite good at this. Again, if we're looking to be in growth mode, we're looking to take it to just another level here. Remember the rule here, that money does grow on trees, referral trees. The question is if you water them. So with that, I'm going to pause, and I would ask you guys for maybe a takeaway. Because if I'm running a training session, I talk about primacy and recency. Primacy is the theme of today. The recency is, what's that one thing? Here's what we know. 50% of what I just covered is already forgotten. By next week, it'll be 8% is what's left. So let's concentrate on that 8%. So if I was to ask you next week, what did you get from today that you know what it is? That's what I want to focus on right now. What were your aha moments? So if you're cool with it, Nia, I'd like to just get some takeaways to help everybody. Because again, this is designed as an educational session today. Again, if you're in growth mode, maybe there's something you got from today that you will either implement, put into practice. So Larry Bloom, I'm going to call on you.
Yes. Takeaways?
Yeah.
Give to get. Primarily look to be the matchmaker. Create value for other people.
Fantastic. You want to pick somebody else?
Eric Fried. You still there?
Eric, I think, has left the building.
All right, Donnie.
I really like the video LinkedIn messages. I just really hadn't thought about that as a practice, and it is just better than just saying, hey, haven't seen you in a while, can you introduce me to somebody? It's a lot more personable, and I just hadn't thought of that before. So that's my
Okay.
I could use that once or twice the next week. I think I'll try that.
Happy to. Thank you. All right, pick somebody else.
I'll pass to the other Larry in the room. So Larry Share.
Okay. Actually, Dan, that was exactly the same thing that I picked up out of it. I thought that was the number one part of this that I hadn't seen or heard before. And Rob, that was a great way of presenting it.
Thank you, Larry. Appreciate that. All right, pick somebody else.
All right. Bruce Steiner.
All right. Gosh, I don't know. Sorry. I do have a question though. LinkedIn, I get all kinds of LinkedIn requests from people I have no idea who they are. If I know who they are, I happily accept. If we have a lot of people in common, I'll probably accept. Sometimes I get a lot of people I've never heard of, don't know who they are. Is it worth accepting them, or what do people do on that?
Here's a question to ask yourself, Bruce. Does this relationship create value for me or for them? If you can answer that question, then I would connect.
Probably neither.
I'll tell you, then I wouldn't connect with them. The question is, does it provide value? Because there's 3 different levels of LinkedIn. There's the Lions, LinkedIn Open Networkers. Then there's the lower one, which is just, friends and clients, which is closed networkers. And the middle one is where you want to play, as long as either you bring value to them or they bring value to you. That's the question you have to ask.
Can I just add one thing? Bruce, when you're looking at the people that you might want to bring into your LinkedIn network, do they compete with you? I went through my listing and I took every estate planning attorney and I took them off my list. I did that because I don't want them contacting my contacts, and that's just one of the things that I thought was protecting my my home turf.
But I mean, that's my area as well. But I get a lot of referrals from people in our field.
Okay.
They could be in another part of the country, or they could have something that for whatever reason they just don't want to do it.
Yeah, I keep all the attorneys on because I do receive about 25% to 30% of my business from other attorneys, but I'm not going to get a referral from one of the firms on Long Island that is doing an estate probate. That's something that I'm going to see them keep for themselves.
Oh, okay, because they're exactly where you in your location.
Exactly mine, not similar. Sorry to interrupt, Rob.
That's okay. No, so I'm basically done. Some of you shared some takeaways and best practices. I'm going to hand it back to Neil. Again, if you want to connect with me on LinkedIn, I'm happy to. And I'm able to help you with any introductions for you guys.
Okay. Rob, thank you. As always, you do a terrific job. And Rob's available if you're part of an insurance agency or a wealth management firm or a CPA firm. Rob works with companies directly in helping them. And he's been a tremendous asset to not only LIAFPN, but to me personally. I always learn something from Rob. No matter what you talk about, you learn something. And if you can have a takeaway and learn something, that would be great. Typically, if we end a little early, we like to go around the room and everyone introduce themselves. But think about what was said today. I think it's always a process. There's nobody who's perfect at anything. You're always going to pick up something. And if you can have one takeaway today, then you've gained something today and it's a value to you. Hopefully we can meet you face to face tomorrow night and want to continue to do this. One of the other things that we just started doing last month that we're looking for contributions is we want to do a monthly newsletter of what's going on in your business that's changed or changing for our newsletter that we all could benefit from. And it's a way to give you a little bit of exposure, but it's also to give you a little background and knowledge of what's going on out there in the world. Listen, it's insane. Where tomorrow? The Hilton in Melville. 5 o'clock, after hours, business casual, not heavy. We'll buy hors d'oeuvres. We're not buying drinks necessarily for people. We don't do that.
Under legal advisement.
Under legal advisement. And we always have an interesting people there that are like-minded, may or may not be in your profession. And one of the things I learned in life is I learn from everyone I meet, and I hope you can too. So listen, have a great day, everybody. I don't want to keep everybody. If you guys want to hang on and network, that's great. I know I have a couple appointments to go to, and thank you. See you tomorrow.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Have a great day, everyone.
Have a
Thank
great
you,
day.
too.
Take care.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Neil and Rob.
Thank
Have a
you.
great
We will
day,
see you guys
everybody.
tomorrow.
Rob, it was great seeing you again. I think I just missed him.
Oh.
Great day, everyone.
You too. Thanks. Have a great day.